Good afternoon, it's Dave at ATI Watch Reviews. Please hit the like button and please smash that subscribe button for more awesome watch content. Little wristwatch check. Just look at the sheen. Look at the lustre of that stainless steel. I've got the PD 1782 on, one of my favourite watches so far of 2024. Beautiful little retro chronograph. But today's video is a review of a Juka homage. It's a Juka 110 dive watch. Well, quasi dive watch, because it's only 100 meter water resist, but they're definitely marketing it as a dive watch. Now, little overview. All the specs that I've seen online for this thing are basically wrong in terms of the manufacturer's specs. Now, Juka, they're a Chinese homage brand. I think they're a part of or somehow connected to Pagani. And they've done quite a few watches, and they tend to specialise in like dive watches. Now, this is homaging a big Japanese watch brand. And it's homaging basically a monster watch. It's 100 meter water resist. It's around 12 mil thick. They're stating it's 44 mil, but it's not. It's more like 42.5 mil. I'll go into the size in a minute. Fully solid stainless steel H-link bracelet with a deployant clasp, no safety, but push buttons. Just your standard push pins that work perfectly fine, with a stainless steel case back with some laser etchings on there, and a screw down crown that is actually signed. Yes, it is. With a flat sapphire crystal that's ever so slightly proud of the bezel. Don't know if you can see that, but it is ever so slightly proud of it. With obviously a stainless steel unidirectional dive bezel. Let's get straight into the sizing. Well, the sizing for me is one of the major benefits of the watch because it is sized as I would desire, basically. Now, they're stating it's a 44 mil watch, but it's not, as you're going to see here. It's around 42.5 mil bezel diameter. The bezel is actually proud of the case, as you can see there. So the bezel is actually the widest part, excluding the crown. And that's only... I'll just get... And that's only about 43 mil diameter. So it's not a 44 mil watch. It's got a lug to lug of about 51. And because it's got female end links, it's got an end link to end link measurement of about 50.5 mil. And the thickness is actually slightly less than 12 mil, 11.9. Let's do the overall with crown. With crown, it's about 45.5. So the watch is very pleasantly sized. I like the fact I would consider it to be basically a 42 mil watch, essentially 43 mil watch. The thickness is nice and pretty slim with very curved lugs. It's very wearable. It's nowhere near as wearable as this. That's obviously a lot smaller because the lug to lug on this is at least 0.5 centimeter bigger. But the female end links help make the watch very wearable. And another thing that I'm going to check is the weight. And as you can see, with 2 links, I've removed 2 links, but if you add them back in, it's around 169 grams, 170 grams. So it's a really nice dive watch weight. I think for some people, you're going to prefer it as a long day wear, more around the 150 gram marks. Now, obviously a link's going to be a few grams each, so if you take out a few links, that's what it's going to be anyway. But I think it is on the slightly heavier side, but it is a 43mm watch, and it is a fully solid stainless steel bracelet. But one thing I noticed was it did have quite a bit of weight to it. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought the total weight was going to be around 150 grams. So when you take the links off, it's going to be around 140, 130 odd grams. But it's not. It's about 20 grams heavier than what I thought it would be. And so it does have quite a nice weighty feel on the wrist, which is actually pretty good. So the sizing is going to be for people with, in my opinion, at least 6.5-inch wrists. I've got 7.25 to 7.5 inch. I've got pretty big wrists. It fits me perfectly, essentially. But just be mindful of the weight and obviously the sizing if you've got less than 6.5-inch wrists. Now, it is a sapphire crystal and it is flat, which means that the reflections should be generally minimal, but I don't think they've used, well, any significant amount of AR coating. It's generally extremely legible. The white indices and hands contrast perfectly with the orange patterned dial. It has a beautiful kind of like hatched pattern on it throughout all the dial, but the crystal is pretty reflective. I wish they'd have put some more anti-glare coating on that, to be completely honest. As you can see, there's another little touch. They've put some like footprints there. You've got the Duca branding with the automatic 10-bar 100 meter. Everything's pretty minimalist. I like that. I like that aesthetic with this dial, because the orange is the centerpiece. You don't want it to be super busy with the already orange dial. I think the way they've done the orange with the white and the stainless steel, it's a perfect sporty dive watch look, and it really works nicely together. There is a blemish on my particular unit, and it's just above where the Cyclops would be. You can just see there's some type of plastic or something, glue or something, on the underside of the crystal. It's a blemish on my unit, and there's also a hair at the top here underneath the crystal. Now those are blemishes, and obviously those detract from the overall experience, but these are cheap Chinese watches. It is disappointing my units have them. Hopefully your units would not, but I'm just pointing that out, and we'll talk about it later. So the dial and crystal is good in terms of the presentation, let down a bit by the finishing. Now the bezel itself, pretty easy to click, very easy to click actually. I would have liked a bit more resistance on that, and it doesn't feel particularly premium. And there is quite a bit of backplay there. The bezel is definitely not one of the strong points of the watch in terms of performance, but in terms of appearance, I think it plays very nicely. Bear in mind, having stainless steel as a bezel means it will scratch to high heaven, even if they've put some type of stainless coating on it. The bezel looks really nice, but I know for a fact with my G-Shocks, I will scratch them up, which is why I prefer generally to have a patterned bezel on stainless steel. The pattern means you won't see the scratches as much, basically. But obviously they've gone for a kind of more flatter one, non-patterned one, and that means that you will get scratches pretty easily. The case is very nice. It's not too chunky. It's perfectly sized really at 12mm. Obviously the lugs nicely curve. There's nothing on this watch that scratches or catches you. I can confirm that throughout. And the crown, it's a smooth action. Yeah, it's a pretty smooth action. Obviously the date window there, you can see it's not completely aligned. It's not bad, the crown. For the movement, you've got a Japanese Miyota 821A self-winding automatic. You're going to get around 40 to 42 hour power reserve. I don't think there's anything, it's a 21,000 beats per hour movement. I don't think there's anything particularly special about this movement though. It's going to be pretty inaccurate as a general rule, in my opinion, once you wear it for a few months. I've had this watch for a year now. To be fair, I would say it's held up better than the NH35s and 34s and 36s and stuff in terms of its accuracy. But I don't write home really, you know, for these cheaper Japanese automatic movements. They're not really what attracts me to these watches, in total complete honesty. I would prefer it if they gave us some quartz options on some of these homages for those that want to pick them up like me. So moving on to the bracelet, which is a mixed bag, but there is some positives. Positive number one is it does have a significant taper on it. It tapers from about 21 mil at the lugs, about 22 mil at the lugs, tapering down to about 17 mil at the clasp, which opens a deployant clasp with push buttons. Now the action is fairly messy, the engagement and disengagement, as you can you see that? It kind of like double disengages. It catches there, then disengages. This is just on my unit though, your unit may be different. I'm hoping that is just it's because the tolerances are poor on the engineering of it, on the parts. Something's catching it there. But it's completely secure. Once that's in, that is completely secure and that is not coming away. You'd have to push them both in to disengage it. They have used moderately decent sized swing arms. It is just a press shell for the clasp itself, but it does have a dive extension. The H-links are super comfortable and the flanks are polished with the main body of the bracelet a nice brushing. The end links are, well, they're female. As you can see, the last links are female. And you've got very good articulation on that bracelet. It is a super comfortable watch. This is it on my 7¼ inch wrist. Looks very nice, I have to say. The polishing is actually pretty good. It's more the kind of QC that they've messed up on, and I'm going to show you why in a few areas, as I've shown you behind the bezel. Behind the dial. But they've also, if you see on the, can you see those like little scratches? Because I've not put them in. They came with the bracelet. You can see those like minor imperfections there with the links. I've not put them in, they were supplied like that. So there's finishing issues there. You know, but again, it's a watch that's well below 100 GBP. And as I said, it is super comfortable. Nothing on the bracelet digs in, nothing on the clasp digs in. I wear it pretty loose, as you know, and it looks way more expensive than 100 GBP. That does give the dive watch look. It's super legible. The pip is very nicely loomed, but the hands and indices, they lose their lume kind of immediately after putting the UV on it. So quite poor really. I mean, it's so poor that you couldn't really see it. If there's in a bit of daylight now, you can't really see the lume at all. But the lume is some area where they could definitely improve it. So overall, how do I rate this thing? Well, the positives are going to be the overall presentation is a 7.5 to 8 out of 10. The weight is a nice 170 grams. It feels like it's got quite decent build quality. It feels really comfortable on the wrist. The bracelet is functional, although it does have a couple of niggling design kind of errors. It's not a bad attempt. To improve this, what they need to do is they need to improve the bracelet tolerances so that the mechanism works better. They need to possibly put a safety catch on there if they can. They need to improve the finishing to get rid of some of these blemishes like under the crystal and on the bracelet there. And they need to massively improve the lume, because the lume is pretty poor on this thing. But overall, it's not bad. It's not bad for the money, for less than £100. You can pick this up probably in an AliExpress sale for a lot less than that. There's an affiliate link down below if you want to pick one up. I make a tiny bit of commission at no extra cost to you. It's been Dave. I'm going to compare this to a Heimdallar that I've picked up recently, that I will do a full comparison on, and it'll be quite interesting actually to see how they actually compare. The Heimdallar is a little bit more expensive, but it's going to be interesting to see how they actually compare together. It's been Dave. Thanks for checking out this review.